All right, it's time to put somebody else into our finals. It's time for semifinal number 2. I'm going to pass it on over to Ailey and Corey.
Thank you so much, Maria and Marty. We cannot wait to get into this matchup. Ailey Loney alongside Corey Baumeister, and we have absolutely loved all the action here this weekend, and we hope you have too. So thank you so much for joining us. We got one more person to put into the finals, Corey.
I'm excited. This is going to be a really exciting matchups by 2 really powerful decks.
And 2 really powerful players. I just love Anthony Lee. He's so funny. I tweeted out asking, who do you think is going to win? He's like, Reed Duke. I'm like, sir, this is not how that works.
Exactly. It's like you're playing Reed Duke in the first round, but yeah, hard to compete against Reed's popularity, that's for sure. But made work of Reed Duke in the first round in the top 8.
Sure did, and he's had an excellent season thus far, as has Jean-Emmanuel, just quietly consistent, working his way, back to top 8 Sundays, and that's the place that we just absolutely love to see him. So this is going to be a great matchup.
That's where we're used to seeing him too, I feel, like he was just so dominant last year and had a great year this year, but it was more those top 32s, top 64s, top 16 type finishes, so maybe not as flashy of a year, but well, this is a good way to put a nice cherry on top of your year and make it flashy.
I mean, if these players have their way, 2 people stand between them and, immortality in a game that they both love so much. Having your likeness on a card, being able to design something, it's not the $100,000 or anything like that, but that is forever.
Exactly. Yep. That is something that no matter what, if you tell someone I won the world championship, I'm a world champion at anything, everyone knows what that means. And if you can show them a card that proves it as well, that's just the cherry on top.
Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But let's get into this game here, starting off pretty darn nicely here for Jean-Emmanuel. Skrelv into Rona, Herald of the Invasion, and just the Restless Cottage down so far for Anthony Lee.
Yep, and we saw Skrelv getting a little busy last round against Greg Orange with JED, but here really looking to protect Rona because, well, this Golgari deck has a ton of removal, so being able to negate that and force the removal like we're seeing now on Skrelv instead of Rona, which is going to be the much better threat.
Yeah, poor little Skrelv getting cut down, so that's dealt with. Rona is going to start doing her job, which is to find all the relevant threats that Jean-Emmanuel needs to run away with this first game.
Yep, and to just be able to curve out. Being able to discard this, maybe play a Legend right now. You can play Rafine, untap Rona, and then even attack here if that is available. Even just playing Skrelv, untapping, doing some more looting, just allows you to have such cool, consistent draws.
Yeah. And that is one thing that Esper is so good at. That's one of the most powerful appeals to the deck, is just how consistent it can be. And that's due to the cards that loot, that connive, that draw you into your impactful spells. And, most of the time curve out.
Yep, 100%. Because just raw power, Golgari deck has more power, for sure.
And then number 3 hits the board here for Anthony. Can he deal with Skrelv number 2? Does he have any more removal in hand?
Okay, and here is a Duress. This is not a good card at all from Anthony because, well, there is, exactly 4 hits? 4 hits in the entire main deck, and Anthony's playing 2 of these in the main. So this is almost why I would give the slight advantage to Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, is just because you have to play 2 pre-boarded games with Duress in your deck, and it's almost a landmine when you draw it, in the sense that, Anthony's deck doesn't have this looting capability where you can get rid of these Duresses, so if you draw it, you're gonna just have to cast it, and it can go pretty poorly.
It can, information is a valuable resource, in and of itself, so Anthony will know that he has an Urtai or an Aganjo to play around. Fairy Mastermind going to hit the board now alongside Skrelv.
Yeah. That's why we were scared of you.
Players joking around with each other, even at this high stakes match. You got to love it.
Love to see it. In for 2 goes Fairy Mastermind. And, you talk about your likeness on a card forever. There's Yuta Takahashi, former world champion.
And all these cards have just been good, too. All ththese world championship cards have been playable. They've seen, some dominance in their formats. And, I mean, there's nothing like it when you win the world championship and then you get to play with your own card like you get to do this year.
That's awesome. Liliana of the Veil hits the battlefield. Well, on the stack, let's see if Jean-Emmanuel rips off that Urtai. Does indeed. So no Liliana for the time being. Anthony will get to draw a card off of that.
And that was known information, so Antony is just like, I got to keep jamming threats. There's no play.
I'll just sit and wait around. He's just waiting to die.
Yeah, there's not a lot of play to this matchup, except Antony can go removal spells on Jean-Emmanuel's turn and then untap and play a Haymaker. That's about the extent of it from the Golgari side. Otherwise, you're just kind of doing what Golgari does best. Play removal and Haymakers.
Oh, yeah. You know, green and black doing what they do best. Big dumb creatures and killing yours. But as it stands, creature counts 3 for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz with several ways to protect his creatures now.
Yep. And has the activation of Fairy Mastermind all queued up here if need be, or maybe some other piece of action in Jean-Emmanuel's hand.
Still got the Iganjo in hand. We've seen the Urtai and the Fairy Mastermind, so just Iganjo.
Just a Ganjo. And this is why Antony was really completely fine with playing Liliana #1, having a backup Planeswalker. And it's just not that relevant right now. We saw how amazing it was against Reed Duke. It was single-handedly really winning Antony a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
Not as powerful when there's, 1-mana 1/1s across from the battlefield. Just not as good.
Oh, it's beside you're going to take care of... Or is that the card discarded?
I believe Beseiju targeting Skrelv.
All right, so Liliana's been minused. Target player sacrifices creature.
3.
And yeah, it is another creature with Skrelv, so can't protect itself. And only the one basic in play, so no need for Jean-Emmanuel to search. Failed to find on that land. Unless that swamp was searched off with the Beseiju. I kind of missed that.
As things stand, Liliana is facing down Fairy Mastermind still. So, this is kind of the sacrifice that Liliana's made here. 2 creatures off the board alongside the Beseiju, but Fairy Mastermind can just clear off the Planeswalker at this point. So, JED going to go for that route.
See what the follow-up is here. Plaza cannot protect the Fairy Mastermind.
Yeah, not legend.
Yep.
Skrelv #3, that is?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Skrelvs are great in these kind of Golgari versus Esper matchup because, well, if Antony wants to win, you have to be able to deal with your opponent's creatures. Kind of that's step 1. Antony then will start casting the different creatures to push through, maybe Shieldred to kind of go over the top. But otherwise, the games where Antony's going to win are the ones when he can deal with all the creatures, Gig's Command being one of the most important pieces of technology. Only one in the main deck, but these games can go long, and you can easily find it.
Yeah, there's no real sweeper effect in the main deck. In the sideboard, we've got Path of Peril, as well as another copy of like X's Command, for example. Rankle's Prank even can do a good job of getting around these protection spells or abilities from the lands and from Skrelv.
And just being able to go up to all 4 cutdowns post-board is going to be a huge advantage for Antony. So JD would really like to win these first 2 pre-boarded games to give himself the best chance. 1-1, you would put favor on Antony for sure, but if JD can win 2, it's hard to put favor on winning the last 3, even though we've seen it plenty of times so far today.
I mean, both these players reverse sweep. So.
Exactly.
Channeling Takenuma, gonna mill 3. Return something to hand. Let's see what he goes for.
Decent options. Looks like we have Liliana, the Knight, and maybe that is it.
I think he hit a land too, so.
Yeah.
Golgari are known for digging around in the graveyard, so.
Mosswood Dread Knight coming back. Not the best card in this matchup. Losing the life can be an actual problem.
Yeah.
And the 3/2 body is not that great. It's not at the level where we're probably going to see any of them sided out because it's just your solid kind of flagship 2-drop in the Golgari deck, but not at its best here.
It's great in conjunction with an active Shieldred, for example.
Everything's good with an active shield.
Oh,
grid.
sure, yeah. Mana Flood, Mana Screw, it's all good. We
Yeah.
have Shieldred.
And you heard the oh boy from
Oh,
Anthony
yeah.
because, well, drawing a card in response, flashing a Fairy Mastermind.
Oh.
1 card for you, Anthony. 2 for JD.
2 for JD. Oh, man. That's brutal.
That is very brutal.
Oh, we got 5 damage on board so far. All right, Sentinel of Lost Lore. JD just reminding himself what the card does.
Yep.
Which mode are we going to pick here?
Yeah, let's see, probably putting the Dread Knight back into hand. There's no reason to keep it in an adventure, even though we might just see it cast as a creature, but looks like we are going to draw the card. And, you know, with Anthony doing that, the Fairy Masterminds alone are going to put Anthony down to 5.
Yeah.
You know, this can be over pretty quickly here without something like Gix Command or Shieldred to be able to start gaining some life or sweeping the board.
Gix's command is a necessity at this point with these creatures being only 2 power.
Yeah.
That card would clear the battlefield, but, you know, JD could perhaps have the other Urtai or the 1 copy of Make Disappear. Who knows? But, yeah, Anthony needs an out, and he needs it right now.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, cool. That's going to make it even more difficult for Anthony to get anything relevant done this turn, so let's see what the draw holds for him.
Yep, and JD leaving up 4 mana, kind of the signature play from these Esper Legends deck with the Plaza of Heroes, being able to protect one of these creatures.
Yeah, no, this is cool because Skrull can just give Talia protection from whatever color creature is on the board.
Exactly.
So where do we go, Anthony? Can you get something cost here? Oh, Shieldred did. Oh, okay.
Very important. Let's see if JD has one of these 3 go for the throats. Yep.
Yeah.
The fastest go for the throat possible. JD's like, I've seen what I've done with Shieldred against Greg Orange. I know what it could do to me. Let's get that off the battlefield right now.
Yeah. Snap that off super quickly. Move to attacks. Just the flyers, eh?
Yep.
Okay. Not going to risk it by going all in with Skrelv and Talia. Oh, boy. But follow up Shieldred, draw step dead.
And yeah, JED's Shieldred looks a lot better when you have an active Skrelv on the battlefield to protect it.
Good grief. All right, so that was pretty much a clinic for Esper Legends. That's what they want to be doing. Sure, Anthony was able to pick off some of the creatures, got rid of Skrelv multiple times, but that's the little might that could. He just kept coming back.
Absolutely. And that is, you know, some of the unfortunateness in this pre-boarded games, you know, drawing duress. If that was maybe a cut down, that would have been pretty huge, but just kind of having a 1 mana peek at your hand is just not great. So we'll see if Anthony can just kind of avoid drawing that card, as it's going to be blank quite often.
I'm wondering if he had a hand with like duress in it and was just like, no, let's multi-6 and see what we can do here. Turn 1, perfect start. Skrelv down on the battlefield here for Jean-Emmanuel.
Okay. Gain some life there.
Yeah, getting rid of Skrelv. It will be hanging out for a while indeed, sir.
Hinting that that virtue is not really the thing you cast.
Not the win con,
No.
It's more just like a cherry on top.
There you go. Yeah, definitely used for the removal side a lot more often than the enchantment, but anytime you have a removal spell that gains you life, kills a lot of the most powerful creatures in the metagame right now, and then has some upside, it's hard to be too disappointed with this virtue, and arguably the best one of the cycle, probably competing with the white virtue as well. Yeah.
And what's great about, you know, the single copy of the Sentinel of Lost Lore, it can get that back, you know.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're just sitting there looking longingly at the removal side of it, and you're like, I really wish I could kill something with it.
Yeah, Sentinel of Lost Lore is a great one-of here. It served Anthony quite well against Reed earlier.
Nice. All right, so Talia taken care of with a go for the throat, paying the tax.
There we go.
Oh,
that was
Liliana,
huge.
lovely. Able to get this Rafine off the battlefield. No ward affecting that ability whatsoever. -2. Liliana keeping things at parity.
Yeah, and that's the things that Anthony really has to be doing in this matchup. Being proactive, getting some threats on the battlefield, get a Glissa, get a Shieldred, land that, and then point removals. You know, these decks are fundamentally different with being different colors and all that, but they play out Kind of similar.
Similarly,
yeah, because you really want to get to the battlefield and then use your stuff to protect it and push through your advantage.
Yeah.
You know, JD doing it with counter spells and Urtai, and Anthony doing it with just the best removal in the format.
All right, draw go from Jean-Emmanuel. Do you smell a Planeswalker, perhaps, or an Urtai?
Yeah, could be, could be. Thalia, so didn't play Thalia, so Anthony has to have some bells going off in the back of his head, be like, okay, you could have cast that, why not, what are you representing? And it really just, you know, the only options, Fairy Mastermind, make disappear an Urtai are the things that have to be on the mind, as well as Channel Takenuma, but that's not the most exciting play here.
Not at the moment,
Yep.
no. So just the uptick on Liliana.
Okay, if there's a Fairy Mastermind, it's going to be cast right now.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Urtai. Hey, nice. Okay, so that stops the Monster Dreadnought from coming back.
Still gets to draw a card, thanks to Urtai's ability.
It's not the absolute worst then for Anthony. Still has a grip full of cards.
And now we're going to see that Urtai finish off Liliana with the Plaza backup. So
Yeah,
even
that's
if there
great.
is a go for the throat, something like that, I'm sure Anthony would have fired it off at end step to keep this Liliana alive and represent killing another creature.
So things looking pretty good here for Jean-Emmanuel. You know, in a lot of the control matchups, for example, it's always whoever blinks first is the person who's going to be disadvantaged or less
Yeah.
favored. But it's a little bit different when it's something that's staying on the battlefield.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a lot different. That's definitely applies a lot to both players having counter spells. Whoever goes first, using their mana to cast a spell, then usually gets kind of blown out by a counter spell. Then they untap and play a big threat.
So what does it do again?
Blossoming Tortoise.
Two of my cards.
Mill 3, get a land.
Yeah, and can get any land, so could pick
Yeah.
that forest as well.
Yeah, that's nice.
I guess one of these is a pain. All right, I'll take this.
And then makes those cottages one less to activate and gives them the buff. So
Yep.
if this tortoise can survive, this could put Anthony in a really good spot.
Yeah, one of the most powerful cards in Wilds of Eldraine. And just green doesn't necessarily have that much love as far as the most popular decks, but Golgari is definitely a home with this, with the cottage being one of the most powerful creature lands we've seen in
Yeah.
a long time.
Definitely. You know, we've seen several different ways that players have approached graveyard exile, and the lands being an option as well as getting a 5/5 and a food. It's just like, well, that's pretty good. If you're playing those colors, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely great value on the creature land there.
So Ravine Scheming Seer joins the battlefield here.
Probably targeting Rona here, otherwise you're just kind of walking Rona into the tortoise.
Yeah.
This also means JED
There's no way he's not.
I think Rona may have drawn and discarded there this turn.
might be, but also untapped when Rafine came into play.
Sure.
So yeah, this was on Rona. You got to at least put one counter on so it doesn't die to the tortoise, but putting both on means that this tortoise very likely just cannot attack here.
Yeah.
And we saw Otawara and Mystery card for JED.
And that Otawara is just the blue now? These 3 legends are in play?
Yep. Just one
Channel
mana on
lands are
summon.
cool.
Yep.
Who doesn't like discounts?
Reverse.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Good job meeting that Juras.
Ah, yeah. Good job indeed. Love that.
Both these players recognize how bad
Yeah.
Duress is and how Anthony does not want to draw that. JED does definitely want him to draw that.
Only on lands.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so Rafine could just jump in the way here of the tortoise. No real threat there of it dying. Gets another land back.
All right.
It's a nice way to ramp with that. I wonder if the tortoise could find a home in a domain ramp shell somewhere along the line.
Yeah, definitely
I doubt there's
possible.
any spot for it, though.
It's definitely hard to argue with it. It's just a powerful card.
Oh, nice. All right, still Lockdown Scorn. Taking care of Rafine, who had the 3 damage marked on him, so clean answer to that.
Yeah, happy with that exchange because the -3/-3 only could deal with Urtai at this rate. So,
Yeah.
and I believe with that fast flicking from Antony, I see Tortoise and Shieldred in hand as the last two cards. So no instant speed interaction and just, you know, relatively clunky things to do.
Yeah.
So if JED does have some instant speed interaction, has the better battlefield, so you would put the advantage his way.
I wonder if we'll see a flipped Rona. She's just so good at her job, though, on the 2-drop side of things, you know?
So here is that same play we saw last turn.
Refrain back from the dead. Well, second copy thereof. Let's connive. How many non-lands do we discard?
Yeah, let's see here. Had the Otawara. I think that's the only known information we have so far. Trying to do the math, maybe representing JED trying to set up a 2-turn clock.
Yeah.
Thinking if I discard 2 non-land cards, what does that count look like? You know, we have 6 damage already. If you take 8 versus 7, can I possibly kill you next turn? All these things going through JED's mind. And I believe we saw Denik and Thalia to the yard, so Denik being able to disturb back and get some value there is always nice.
It's always great when you can reuse your creatures or your spells that you're discarding. Denik being one of them. It can put some more pressure on Antony at a later stage, and he is definitely under pressure, sitting at 9 life so far. This Tortoise is doing the best it can. We have a couple of Restless Cottages.
Yeah, and it's not that stage of the game at all where Antony is trying to fire up these cottages or something. We know the other 2 cards in hand is another Tortoise and a Shieldred. Antony cannot double spell right now, so whatever gets played, that Otawara is just going to really be a blowout. Like, yep, might as well pick that one back up.
Yep, here we see it. It's Otawara, just a single blue, returning that to hand, courtesy of the discount from the Legends on board.
Yeah, and this is looking huge advantage to JED, doing exactly what he needed and kind of wanted to do. Pick up these first 2 pre-boarded games, 'cause it's going to get a lot worse for him in the post-board ones.
So things going Jean-Emmanuel's way thus far with his pretty stock build of Esper Legends, but it has served him extremely well this weekend.
Yeah, it definitely may be a stock-ish list, but Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is as far as it gets from being a stock player, that's for sure. So plays this at a masterful level. And the one thing I did see as far as this draw goes, that was 3 lands picked up.
Just gonna make me look stupid?
Oh, man. These are my favorite kind of players who can just have a good time while they're playing for the biggest stakes in their Magic careers.
Exactly. Exactly. At the end of the day, we are playing a game, the greatest game in the world.
Hell yeah.
So now it's either a chump block on Urtai or it's a chump block on Rona, so you might as well chump block the higher power, but even Gix Command here does not cleanly deal with the battlefield. You can sack highest power. Okay. All right. All righty then.
Oh boy, the apocalypse hath come. Antony's gonna go down to 3. Is it anything meaningful?
I don't think there's a card.
No.
Like maybe go for the throat on Shieldred.
No. Yeah. This was, jeez, that is Jean-Emmanuel picking up game number 2. So just a reminder, friends, that is best. Ooh, I can speak. This is best 3 out of 5. So 2 pre-boarded. The next 3 games, the players are going to get to sideboard against their opponents. So we're going to take a very short break. Corey, anything from that match before we go to the ad break?
God, just excited to see the post-board games and see if Antony can claw his way back in.
We'll be right back after this. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, Antony Lee concludes. Welcome back to coverage of World Championship 29 here in Las Vegas. I'm Ailey Loney alongside Corey Baumeister, and we are looking for someone to face Kazune Kasaka, who is waiting in the wings to see who it is he's going to face. If you were Kazune, who would you be rooting for right now, Corey?
I would probably be rooting for Golgari, I would think, but it is really close. I mean, Esper Legends has a close matchup against that Esper mid-range deck. But yeah, Kasaka has just been playing such great Magic. I don't know if it matters at this point. He's been playing so well. I've been really impressed with his gameplay.
Likewise. Well, we are in progress here. It is game 3 for our two semifinalists. Anthony Lee up against Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, who is up 2-0. So, sideboarding, Corey.
Yep.
What can Anthony do to get back in this?
So, big changes here for Anthony. As you would expect against Esper Legend, which is a all-creature deck, essentially. You're going to bring in every single piece of creature removal. We have 2 cut down, Go for the Throat, Tear Asunder, Gix Command, and Path of Peril as all removal that came in. So that is, what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of removal.
Good grief.
And 2 Phyrexian Arena actually came in, which I thought was pretty interesting. And believe it or not, the 2 Duresses came out. I know this is shocking to everyone watching. As well as Nissa. We saw Liliana be pretty bad, so those were taken out as well. And then some medium creatures in the matchup, Graveyard Trespasser and Tenacious Underdog. So Anthony is looking to stick Glissa and Shieldred and just kill every creature.
Everything else.
Yep.
Speaking of, Glissa Sunslayer is here for all but 2 seconds before Go for the Throat takes care of that critter. Turn passes back to Jean-Emmanuel, and he is going to deploy Wedding Announcement.
Yep, and this was a card that was sided in. JED brought in Wedding Announcement, Owl the Dawn Sky, Negate, and then took out cards that are not as great. Thalia, not that great in this matchup. Not as good as we saw against Greg Orange in the earlier one. Took out a couple of Ronas, and the Rat King, Lord Skitter, Sewer King came out as well.
Lord Skitter seems like he's, jockeying for position in these matchups a little bit.
Yeah, and just Anthony has a lot of blockers for the Rat, so they're really not that good.
Yeah.
And if you get a really wide battlefield with just a Rat army, any of the Gix Command or Path of Perils just absolutely wreck you, so love taking that one out. JED wants to go tall in this matchup instead of wide, and by that, just much bigger creatures than a really wide battlefield.
So, dueling Shieldreds as it stands with an active Wedding Announcement. So, Jean-Emmanuel winning on creature count at the moment, but for the most part, these Shieldreds are going to negate the life gain and drain effect.
Absolutely. Really just bounce off each other and do effectively nothing. If one player's at 2, timing on active player, non-active player comes into play. But for the most part, you can just take both abilities off the battlefield when there's 2 Shieldreds facing each other.
Yeah. There's just 4 or 5 Death Touchers. That's all. For 4 mana.
Seems no big deal.
Oh, double removal. Excellent play there. Giving -3/-3 to Shieldred, allowing her to be cut down. That is so cool.
Wow. That might be the first Shieldred that has ever been cut down in the history of Standard Magic right there. That is pretty awesome.
That was exceptionally sweet by Anthony Lee. He knows how important it is to be the only Shieldred on the board. It's like there's no place for 2 apocalypses. What's the plural for apocalypse? Apocalypse? No, that doesn't sound right.
I'm sure that's it.
Yeah, let's go with it.
And Cut Down really being the best card that you can have against Esper, being able to deal with Rafine, being able to deal with Thalia, being able to deal with Dennick. It deals with everything. Not usually Shieldred, that's where you have the Go for the Throats and the other, hard removal spells, but Anthony making a good use of a 2-for-1 on such a powerful creature.
There can be no mercy, no half measures when facing Phyrexians. It's kill swiftly or die. How appropriate that it just killed a Praetor.
There you go. So now JED has to decide, do you want to attack with both creatures? Because then drawing a card off Wedding Announcement, that means 2 more life. And, your life is a resource when you're up against Shieldred, and you really have to be careful about all your plays.
Well, backup Shieldred will ensure that the life totals, if he were to attack, would remain as such. But, Wedding Announcement gets the 3rd invitation counter, so flippity-flop. the bigger board now belongs to Jean.
This was an interesting play. JED had the battlefield open. There were no blockers available for Antony, so could have got in there for one, you know, and still gotten a soldier out of it. But what this is saying, JED is like, I kind of expect Shieldred to die because, well, you know, if a Shieldred hits the battlefield, you're going to try to kill it. And if it does die, JED could triple block, lose all the soldiers, but at least deal with Shieldred and not take another hit for 4.
Oh, is this a Gix's command?
Gix command would be huge.
That kills every...
No.
No, it's a tortoise.
Oh,
Tortoise.
it was the fake out.
Ooh, yeah, you got us too there, Anthony.
Tap the 5 and JED is like, oh no, just kidding.
You cheeky player. Blossoming tortoise hits the board. I've never been so disappointed in a tortoise in my life. You got us. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, Gix command there, the 2 modes definitely would have been sacrifice the largest creature and then deal with all the 2-power creatures.
I mean, that would have essentially been GG, you know.
Pretty close, yep. Would have been down to 8, then down to 6.
All right, the turn passes back. Blossoming Tortoise alongside Shieldred. The only thing standing in the way of Jean-Emmanuel getting that 3rd win, but Anthony's not going to make it easy for him. Both of these players have clawed their way back in their earlier rounds.
Yeah, Anthony's came back from the 2 games down just 1 match ago, so definitely has it within his range.
Oh, nice. Now the Dawn Sky, which we didn't see in all of the against all of the lists running heavy exile effects.
Yes, and yeah, Golgari just doesn't really have any exile effects, so this is probably exactly what this is for. Maybe you bring it in against mono red or something that can't really exile it as well, but definitely 4 cards that say destroy target creature instead of exile target creature.
And you know, Owl being the biggest creature on the board, if there were to be a Gix command, that just dies, Shieldred survives.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, there is Shieldreds in the yard. There's a Glissa as well. We'll see if there's any answer. You know, there's still plenty of Ottawaras in the deck. JED does play 3 of those.
Yeah.
If you want to send those packing. But outside of that, there's really no way in JED's list to actually cleanly deal with it.
No destroy evils.
Yeah. Time to get busy, says JED.
Yeah. Virtue of Persistence. Man, I love seeing this card down. Reduce, reuse, recycle, Corey.
There you go. So now, Anthony can just like trade with Shieldred to Shieldred and then get a Shieldred back in his upkeep. But if JED is kind of, you know, thinking that he's going to do that, then you block Shieldred. They both go away, and then you can bounce the Virtue.
Yeah. Oh, that would be brutal.
Yeah,
and then hopefully have like counterspell backup for it when it comes down again, or potentially comes down again.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of surprising with JED's list is there's no destroy evil. Usually the best answer for Virtue, but nope. But Dennick is a pretty good one as well.
Yeah, so Virtue of Persistence unable to return anything from the graveyard right now.
Yep.
That's a bit of a womp womp for Anthony.
Very much so.
But now look at the life totals, down to 7. Up against 12 from Jean-Emmanuel, so things looking pretty good. And that's a big attack next turn.
Yeah.
With the buff from the wedding festivities, a flyer in the air.
I did see Go for the Throat and Cut Down in Anthony's hand, so can deal with Ow and Dennick. Well, not even Dennick anymore with the festivities flipped, so.
Wee. Going down to 6 with Dread Whispers.
Yeah, all these exchanges so far.
Desperation time here.
It's looking very desperate. You know, where is the Gix command? Where is Path of Peril?
Yeah.
To be able to neutralize this battlefield.
Oh boy. Cross your fingers, Anthony Lee fans. Can he find a way to clear this board out? Otherwise, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is going to be our second finalist.
Absolutely.
Hold our breaths.
And Kasaka with the clean sweep on the other side of the bracket as well.
Unbelievable run from the Japanese player. And will we find his opponent right here, right now? Can Anthony find anything to deal with this battlefield from Jean-Emmanuel Depraz?
With this long of a pause, you gotta not like his chances here.
That's just lethal in the air then.
So there is the Go for the Throat. So this is probably going to be a Go for the Throat in combat. You don't want to do it now because then you'd get that trigger for ow. But here's the thing.
That's it. That's the extension. And Jean-Emmanuel Depraz picks up the 3rd win, a clean 3-0 up against Anthony Lee to be our second finalist here at the World Championship.
Yep. And there we go. There was just nothing that Anthony could have done. Could have went for the go for the throat there, but figured JED was going to be able to see Plaza in the mana
Oh, for sure.
and negate that.
was like fine, but Terra Thunder.
Yeah, that was.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff for the Frenchman. You love to see him in the finals of the most important tournament in Magic.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff here for Jean-Emmanuel.
Getting another crack at winning the World Championship. He was so close a couple years ago. Definitely wants to capitalize on it and, you know, get the likeness on the Magic card. Going to be an incredible finals.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be phenomenal. But before we jump into the finals, friends, let's hear from Jean-Emmanuel. He's with Cedric now.
Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, another victory. This one maybe a little less stressful.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes good matchups play out like good matchups, I guess.
So let me ask you a question about your preparation for this tournament. There was a lot of different decks that you could play in Standard. Why'd you choose what you chose for the weekend?
So for a while we were experimenting on the Cauldron deck, and one of my teammates played it, Alexei Polo. But then I had this Magda Gruul feeling, you know. 2 years ago I played Magda Gruul at Worlds, and it was a deck that no one played at the time, no one played anymore, a deck from the previous format. And I had that thing with Esper Legends where I was wondering why no one was playing that deck, because it was great when Grixis was a thing and didn't lose anything with the bans. So I wanted to try it out again, and we started doing series against the most popular decks, so Golgari, Boros Pia at the time, and it was crushing all these decks. So yeah, I decided to push it further and didn't really encounter much resistance.
Well, clearly this decision has paid off because you are in the finals of a World Championship again, which I can't say that very often. Now, the last time you came up a little bit short. This time the opportunity to become the world champion. Between Kitsune and Simon, any preference?
I'd like Simon to win because I think I haven't tested against soldiers, so this is purely theoretical, but I think I have a better matchup against the aggressive creature decks than Esper Midrange. And also I have a history of losing finals to Japanese players, so maybe a little superstitious, but yeah, I'd like Simon to win.
Well, it might not be a Japanese player, maybe Simon, just the player of the year instead. We will have to see. JED, good luck in the finals.
Thank you very much.
It's Jean-Emmanuel Depraz up against Kazune Kasaka coming up next. Don't go anywhere.